This is the Dover Download Podcast. My name is Christopher Parker, and for the past 25 years, I've had the pleasure of working with, learning from, and talking to a variety of volunteer, staff, and community members. This podcast explores conversations, activities, and a variety of policies and programs which exist here in Dover to improve the community in one way or another. As with most entities, and probably with each of our listeners, energy consumption and energy usage is an important thing. It drives a lot of our budget, it drives a lot of our needs and our technology. Here at the City of Dover, we have tried over the years to understand what our energy usage is, mitigate it where we can, or reduce it if possible. Today, we're going to meet with Eric Sanderson, who's a facilities project manager here with the city, and Lexi Merchant, who's a energy planner here with the city, to talk about some of our latest efforts. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Lexi, what are we trying to accomplish with this project?
This project, the city went out to bid in the summer looking for an energy service company or an ESCO to do a no-cost audit that would look at municipal buildings and see their energy use, look at their HVAC systems, the ventilation, to see where we can make improvements. So that was the first step of the contract that we went out to bid for, and we selected EEI, which is Energy Efficient Investments, to conduct the no-cost audit.
Eric, Lexi mentioned the breadth, HVAC, heating, all of those sorts of elements. Where's our number one driver when it comes to our energy consumption? Other than like the wastewater treatment plant, which, right off the board, that in the arena, just because of the sheer magnitude of what they're trying to accomplish. But in general, is it City Hall? Is it the library? Is it the McConnell Center? Where do we see those big energy users?
I would probably say the McConnell Center due to the use of the building. City Hall's a big building just like the McConnell Center, but the hours of usage are limited. But the McConnell Center is open, I think the gym opens at 6 a.m. and is open till 10 at night, certain times a year. So, and other activities like men's basketball leagues, plus we have outside nonprofit tenants that are here whenever they need to be. So it's definitely a more used building and a lot of different needs also for temperature, and whereas City Hall is a lot of open space. We keep the offices at City Hall. We try to keep them comfortable. Right. But in this building, it's a majority offices. So it's...
Having been around long enough, I know that unlike City Hall, which is on 3 or 4 zones, McConnell Center, there's multiple areas, and there's also mini splits that help supplement some of the tenants where they're needed. City Hall, we have the mini splits as well, but they're more used for air conditioning than for heat because it's plenty warm in City Hall.
Yeah, you have probably, with mini splits in City Hall, you probably have around 12 different zones.
Yep.
In the McConnell Center, you probably have 40 or 50.
So, Lexi, what does the EEI team look like? Is it one person? Is it a group? How are they tackling their audit of the systems?
They've worked with Eric to go around to the buildings that were agreed upon to look at, and they go down in the basement. We went up on the roof.
What buildings have we selected for them?
We have focused on the McConnell Center, but we've also gone to the ice arena, wastewater treatment plant, public works, library, which is kind of under construction, so we really haven't gone too deep into that.
The fire stations, as well as City Hall and facilities and grounds, they looked at briefly.
I would presume that facilities and grounds, that we took measures. I mean, that building's 3 or 4 years old. And then the library, as you say, Eric, is under construction. And I've got to hope that BPS is including some upgrades. Probably the biggest one is the window replacement, which is going to have an inherent improvement. Though from my own experience, I understand that windows are a factor, but it's really the sills, it's really the connection points that are the bigger factor. The heat loss opportunity spaces, not necessarily windows.
Yeah, they did look at the library and kind of said we were going in the right direction. So there was really no need, and there really weren't any solar benefits for that. And solar was kind of a big driving factor
Sure.
in a lot of this fall.
Lexi, can you walk us through what a energy services contract looks like and how it operates?
Sure, yeah. So how an energy savings performance contract works is that our chosen ESCO, which is EEI, identifies finances and then implements energy efficient upgrades at a facility that reduce the overall energy and operating costs of the facility. They don't require a large upfront investment, and the goal is that it's actually budget neutral. So if we have an operating budget of X and we implement savings measures that lower the cost, we keep the same operating budget and pay for the upgrades using the money saved. And there's also tax credits for clean energy that can be used to pay for these projects. And so right now, since some of these tax credits are ending before the end of the year, specifically for solar, we're trying to move ahead with solar on a few selected buildings before we get to the overall energy savings performance contract.
So to summarize, the goal is to say we're going to make these improvements, and the savings between our energy costs today and post improvement will be used to pay the debt service on those improvements, but we're not paying a loan that we've taken out. It's going through the ESCO. So we're paying them. It's essentially a agreement to buy out the improvement over time. Is that pretty fair? Okay. So I know we did this in 2007 or 8, and one of the elements of that agreement was if the targets weren't met, then we didn't know anything, because if there are no savings because they didn't estimate correctly, then that was sort of like the penalty on the company. Are there similar things in place for this one, or has the world evolved and that doesn't happen anymore?
No, that's still the case. It's all of the savings are guaranteed. So the price that they quote us at the beginning is guaranteed through the whole contract timeline, which is usually around 20 years.
Okay. And Eric, how do we monitor those savings? What sort of, and I know we haven't implemented anything because we're still in the audit and the design implementation phase is about to begin, but how do we plan on monitoring that savings and quantifying that there is a benefit?
I think through past utility bills and future is a big resource for judging our usage. And I mean, ultimately, prices go up and down. So you got to really look at the
kilowatts, therms, and things of that nature, the actual measurement of the usage. Yep.
But basically, you're going to have saving. If we do solar projects, we're going to see a huge dent in electric bills. And heat-wise and AC, today, our efficient systems are far better than a lot of the stuff that is in our current buildings. So I think right up front, we're going to notice a big difference.
Lexi, I got to assume at a certain point, there's a diminishing return because, as Eric says, over time we've made efficiencies just because newer technology that we've replaced boilers, et cetera, they're more efficient infrastructure. So at a certain point, say the ESCO necessarily is going to have a struggle to find ways for improvement because there's a threshold you can't go above, right? There's a certain efficiency you're going to gain. You're never going to get 100% efficient. So how do they hope to help us identify what the best route for savings or mitigation is?
Yeah. So right now there's a lot of room for improvement. Especially right now, what we're focusing on is the McConnell Center, which had some big pain points, like the gym has no AC,
right?
Which they'd like to fix.
Mm-hmm.
So the McConnell Center also needed a new boiler,
right?
And so we're trying to wrap that into this project as well, and kind of do solar, a gym dehumidification system, the new boiler, the mini splits are also at the end of life, so trying to replace those. So the McConnell Center definitely has some big savings opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out to folks, it's 2025. The building renovation occurred between 2005 and 2007. So to your point, we put new boilers in 2000, let's say 6, just for the rounding of it. they're 20 years old. They deserve to be replaced. It's not that there's any failure point. It's that the end of life is served. Same with the mini splits. Mini splits, as we found in my office at City Hall, right? They have a lifespan. And the ones in this building are reaching 15 to 17 years as well. So these things, this technology needs to be replaced. Equipment needs to be replaced, regardless of our maintenance plan. Things are not designed to be indefinite.
I mean, adding to what Lexi said also is with the package they offered us, they looked at geothermal because they feel that that's far better return on investment than the heat pumps in a lot of applications. And when they did all the numbers, it came out that it really wasn't much of a savings in this application. So,
is the building so large and doesn't have a forced hot air system to tap into? Or I'm thinking from the air conditioning standpoint.
Yes, but part of it is the fact that the way the building's set up, how they would have to implement all the new infrastructure, it was so much more expensive than just replacing in kind and more efficient systems. It just, the return on investment wasn't there. So, maybe down the road, it may be a little more efficient or to do.
Or if you were starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Right. It's that's part of the thing. This building is 104,000 square feet. It's 53,000 square feet of circulation space. So a lot of dead space in this building. Not to mention, Lexi, you noted the gym. That's 2-story dead space. It takes a lot to heat or cool if we were going to go the cooling route there. That's probably why the dehumidification makes more sense than cooling. So where are our next steps? What's the prognosis from here? We're at the end of 2025. You're working to get solar implemented so we can take advantage of the credits. What's the timeline looking like?
So the next steps are to get the finalized numbers from EEI on what everything is going to cost and take it to council for approval.
So EEI will come, they'll do a presentation, I assume, to the Energy Commission first.
They have given a presentation to the Energy Commission. They just didn't have the finalized numbers at the time because there were just some things that we wanted to add.
I presume that the Energy Commission's been a pretty strong driver behind all this work. They were actually formed because of the efforts in 2008.
Yeah, they've been really helpful in this whole process, and especially with the solar. They've been a big driver of the solar. We have a lot of solar experts on the commission.
Good.
And then also someone from Resilient Buildings Groups who knows a lot about weatherization and energy efficiency improvements. So they've been really helpful.
My experience over the years with the Energy Commission is that we're very lucky to have talented individuals that really want to roll up their shirt sleeves and get involved, not necessarily in a micromanaging way, but we're here to help staff, help the community move forward with their knowledge base and their experience.
Yeah, absolutely. We are really lucky to have them.
So, Eric, if you could pie in the sky, would we do every building, or are there certain logistical things that you think just don't make some spaces work as well?
I mean, ultimately, in the long run, this is a long-term kind of relationship with EEI if we want to continue with them. So I would say a lot of our current buildings that were under construction or the last few years we've done really don't have any needs right now.
Okay.
But as we move forward, if this relationship lasts, it's, in the long run, we're going to hit a point where those buildings are going to start to need some upgrades and new equipment. So I think ultimately, yes, we could touch on every building in the city if we had to,
right,
and when the opportunities come up. Logistically, I think like some of our pump stations and things like that, they do use HVAC and electricity, but I just don't think logistically it's worth
the amount of solar panels you'd need versus the roof space or the side space probably out there. And I know we also struggle, or at least we have in the past, with things like the flat roof on City Hall or on the McConnell Center. They are 100-year-old buildings. They weren't designed with the roof load to carry solar or to carry some of these implements. And hopefully over time they get lighter and it becomes more as you say, logistic-wise, it makes more sense because I think those are some prime opportunities for solar gain, particularly the exposure. Anything else the listener should know about this effort?
I think we covered everything.
Cool. Well, we will keep our eyes out for when this goes to the council for ultimate award of bid on the final package, and then the listener can certainly tune into that. I'm sure there'll be a workshop or something to go through all the logistics. And Lexi, as you mentioned, it's already been to the Energy Commission, so they could find the Energy Commission meeting, at least the minutes from when the presentation from EEI was there. Thank you both for coming in. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
As the holiday season has started, we are embarking on the end of November, the beginning of December, and that means that we should look back at November and all the activities that our boards, committees, and commissions have accomplished in the past month. I'm here with Aaron Basagio from the Planning Department and Brian Early from Media Services to talk about the Planning Board, the Zoning Board, the City Council, and every other board in the middle. Aaron, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Planning Board meet this month?
They sure did. No.
Surely they have to. So.
Well, one difference in November and December, the planning board only meets once. So there was only one meeting in November. It was a pretty light meeting. They had a TDR application they considered and approved. That's for a project at 36 Forest Street. The applicant was requesting 2 units for converting and redeveloping the existing structure into a 4-unit structure. The other application was a big project, the site plan approval for the old Harvey's building on Central Ave. The proposal is first floor commercial, so similar to what was there, except now it'll be 4 individual commercial units on the first floor. And then the upper 3 floors are going to be residential, 15 total apartment units in that. So that was a big approval, and that'll be a big change to the downtown area.
Yeah, and that one actually went to the Parking Commission earlier that day. That same day, they went and got preliminary approval for being able to purchase parking permits in the parking garage to accommodate their parking. That will go to the City Council either in December or January to get ratification.
And that was an important piece of the site plan because all of the residential parking is going to be in the parking garage.
Yeah, it's a unique situation where it's a sort of landlocked property in the sense that the building is the size of the property. And so in order to maximize it as we want downtown, take advantage of the parking garage and the ability to buy permits.
And the Conservation Commission also met. They had a couple projects. They endorsed a CUP for a single family home that's being proposed on Saddle Trail Drive. That was for impacts in the Conservation District that were proposed as part of that. They reviewed a CUP for a childcare facility that's being proposed on Central Ave at 914 Central. The project is within the secondary groundwater protection district, so they're reviewing the impervious surface being proposed. They asked for some additional information, so that'll be coming back in December for their review.
So that project is going through technical review now. That will be an interesting reuse because that space, the former restaurant, has probably been out of business for maybe 10 years, so it'll be good to see that space activated.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a big change from a restaurant, but a lot of TRC discussion was going into change of use, but also how the building will be accessed. We all know Central Ave's a busy street, so there was a lot of discussion from pretty much every department on how to ensure that space will be accessed safely. And the Energy Commission also met. Lexi was on talking about energy savings performance contracting, and the commission was reviewing updates to that project. Probably don't need to say more because Lexi and Eric covered it.
I will add to the Energy Commission. It was the first time I attended an Energy Commission meeting in a while. I was asked to come and speak on behalf of business development in favor of the CPACE program, which the Commission was reviewing and will ultimately go to the City Council for adoption when it is approved by the Energy Commission.
And CPACE is Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy, right?
That is very true.
And also an update on the Energy Commission. 2 of their members were recently elected to City Council, and they will be looking for some new members. So if anyone's interested, please fill out an application and submit it to the City Clerk's office.
Anything else we should cover from the land use world, Aaron?
That's it.
All righty. Brian, can you let us know what the city council discussed in the month of November?
A lot of the focus of the city council in November has been the capital improvements program, which was introduced in October. Planning board passed their recommendation to the city council at their second meeting in October. The council held a workshop on November 5th to discuss the 6-year planning document with a focus on first-year projects. They also held public hearings on the 3 resolutions that make up the CIP at the regular November meeting. Now, the other thing of note in November was the city council passing an ordinance allowing the muzzling of dogs deemed vicious under state standards. This is actually a new state law that was enacted this year, and that allows municipalities to muzzle dogs that are deemed vicious under particular standards.
Right.
And Chief Turlemizian discussed with the council how limited it would be used. This is not for, a first offense.
Right. I think that what the chief was explaining to the council, and I think the council understood at the end of the conversation, was this is not a proactive measure, meaning we're looking for dogs to muzzle. This is you're a repeat offender. You've been warned. You've tried different methods and it hasn't worked. You continue to want to bring your dog in public. Here are the things that are going to need to be in place. And he laid out, just as you said, that this is not a willy-nilly, I'm going to walk down the street and say your dog needs to be muzzled. It is very much a repeat offender, vicious nature, not scary nature, but vicious nature. And I think it's one of those things that it's good to have on the books, but we might not actually have to use because the reoccurrence of it is not as prevalent as it might have seen from the headlines that you might have seen online for this item. And certainly I know in your mind, and at least in mine, you hear vicious and it conjures up an image. And I think that's not the average dog or the average dog walker's concerns.
Yeah, you seem to really stress the public safety aspect over a period of time. Yeah.
One of the interesting sidebars that came up at the meeting was the understanding of what leashed means, and that a leash could be a physical thing, but it also can be referring to having your dog under voice control. And as a former dog owner, I know I was a good example of this. When I would take my dog on the community trail, if there were no other animals around or no people around, I would have her off leash because I knew she would come when I called and she would listen to commands, and it was under control in my mind. She was not roaming free. If I said, come here, she came here. And I think the chief made a good point that leashing under the statutory is not necessarily the physical, my hand is at one end and the dog's collar is at the other end. And I think that's a good thing to all be reminded about.
Another thing, that city council, the Joint Building Committee announced a groundbreaking ceremony for the Dover High School Athletic Complex project, pushing this into the construction phase. They're planning to hold that Wednesday, December 3rd, and they're hoping for a relatively mild winter to allow significant site work. I mean, their real goal is to get people playing next fall.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of optimism there. And from the weather standpoint, we've actually had a fairly good string of mild winters. So maybe they will luck out. I know the waterfront has benefited from those mild winters for all the construction progress we've made down there. So same thing can hopefully hold true at Alumni Drive. Brian, has the school board done anything in the month of November just to round out our big 3?
The school board began its fiscal year 27 budget process in November. They started with a high-level overview from Superintendent Christine Boston and Chief Financial Officer Michael Lamani, followed by an in-depth review of the proposed budget. The school board continues its budget workshops on Mondays in December and early January, with a current adoption date targeted for January 12th. By ordinance, it's due to the city manager by January 15th. And then the city manager will take this adopted budget and present it in the citywide budget to the city council in mid-February. Budget documents and video recordings of budget workshops are posted to the FY 2027 Budget Revealed webpage on the city's website.
In conjunction with that, I believe the city council and the school board will hold their required joint meeting to formally start the budget process in early December. That's where we have some preliminary conversation about the tax cap numbers and get a sense for direction from the city council as to what it might be looking for in reviewing the magnitude of the 2 budgets. Aaron, the zoning board had an interesting meeting this month. A couple of cases that weren't heard because of a lack of quorum, but they ultimately had one case before the board?
Yeah, so just the one application being reviewed. The applicant was proposing a duplex on the lot. Within the R20 zoning district, a property owner can propose a duplex. It's based on square footage. So the applicant needs to have 15,000 square feet per unit. This applicant was below that total number. After a lot of discussion, debate by the board, they did approve the variance.
It's an interesting situation because by right, they can convert any single family. And I know at one point the applicant was looking to do that, but they really had to make major modifications to the existing structure, which I believe the zoning administrator then determined wasn't actually a conversion, but was a new build, which is why they needed the variance.
Correct. That was conversation leading up, and it ended up determining that the variance was needed in this situation. And again, the board approved it.
I appreciate you both coming in and giving us the update on what occurred through our boards, committees, and commissions in the month of November. We'll talk to you next month.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for listening to the Dover Download this week. If you like what you heard, subscribe through your favorite podcast aggregator. And if you have something you want to hear a topic on, let us know. Finally, this is just one of the many ways we share information about the city of Dover. You can subscribe to the Dover Downloads email newsletter every week or other newsletters that we have by going to the City of Dover homepage, www.dover.nh.gov. Have a great week.